Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90 is brought to you by Stanbic Bank.
Hello and welcome. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. My name is Edmond, Kizito, your host. Welcome. Tonight on Spectrum, reports of intrigue and a raging succession battle within FDC. What does this mean for the party as it comes to terms with the results of the 2011 elections? The media has been rife with reports of intrigue within the FDC and an internal succession battle that has seen some party members suggesting a radical shift in the way the party chooses its leaders. These reports indicated that a section of top leaders want the current president and three-time presidential candidate Dr. Kizza Besigye to step aside and a new leader who would contest in the 2016 elections elected. These internal challenges have surfaced at a time when the party is still coming to terms with the losses it suffered in the just concluded election, causing fear that FDC may be heading for serious trouble, including a possible split. The party recently held a closed-door meeting to review its positions, where it's reported that party stalwarts vented out their anger about deep-rooted challenges, which they say caused the party victory and other troubles that may derail this party. Some blame their dismal performance on time wasted forging the inter-party cooperation instead of building party structures to safeguard the votes. Others indicated that there are people within the party who worked against Dr. Besigye by not delivering campaign logistics on time as planned. The debate was tense to the level of some leaders calling for regional balance in how the party leaders are selected or elected. Some suggested that the western part of Uganda, which has dominated key party positions, must abstain from contesting for the presidency. All these issues were discussed at the review meeting, which also analyzed the post-election period as well as plans to force government into arranging new elections, given the fact that the election results were rejected by FDC and many other people. The public has also been baffled about the unusual silence and the absence of Dr. Kizza Besigye from the peaceful demonstrations that he called. Some people have even suggested that he might have taken off into exile, planning a political tsunami, in quotes, or surely in shock after being defeated by President Museveni. Other opposition leaders, led by UPC's Dr. Olara Otuno, have been carrying out demonstrations pushing for a uprising similar to those in Tunisia, Egypt, and now Libya, but an on-spot assessment indicates that Ugandans are not willing to or even ready to take that direction. So tonight we host the FDC president, Dr. Kizza Besigye, to discuss key issues raised at the recent party review meeting and other key issues happening in Uganda and the rest of Africa, notably the uprising and bombings in Libya. You're most welcome, Dr. Besigye.
Thank you very much. Nice to be back here in Radio 1. I actually, for a moment, thought you were continuing with reading the news at 7.
Well, we have to give a background. This is an important topic. Let's talk about the Libyan conflict. As you're aware about this Libyan conflict, Uganda is a friend of Libya and is a member of the AU and is directly affected by this situation in Libya. What do you make of this situation, the way it's going, the response by the Western powers and the Ugandan position?
Well, I think the situation in Libya, the situation in several other countries, is one that unfortunately is a result of not paying attention to developments, political developments within our countries, in spite of actually setting standards to do so by the African Union. The African Union, the Constitutive Act of the African Union, actually sets standards for member states who sign on to being members, standards of how they will manage political freedoms in their country and democratization, standards of human rights, standards of the rule of law, of transparency in government and accountability, standards of dealing with corruption and so on and so forth. These matters are very, very clearly stipulated in the Charter of the African Union, subsequently in the Charter for Democracy and Good Governance, or something which they also signed. The problem is that these are just left on paper. And so sometimes, internal conflicts arise as a result of deviation from some of these standards, and these conflicts grow, and dictatorships arise and grow, and eventually when there is an eruption of open conflict, people get surprised. Why has this happened? And then start fidgeting on how to fix it. I would not like to even discuss other countries. Let's discuss Uganda. Uganda has just gone through an election. No, even before this election, the election of 2006 was ruled unanimously by the Supreme Court of our country not to be free or fair. That is a unanimous verdict of the Supreme Court of Uganda, on paper, on record. The Constitution of Uganda, which is deposited with the African Union, clearly spells out that the only avenue to have a president in our country is through a free and fair election. So if there is a president who is elected, and indeed that is the standard set by the African Union Constitutive Act, it's very clear, the principles of democracy that must be upheld by all nations. The rule of law. That election, as you know, took place shortly after the army had invaded the courts of Uganda, and the whole entire judiciary had to go on strike. These are the rule of law which is espoused by the African Union. And happily, the African Union had said that this whole principle of non-interference in other nations' internal affairs had been revised. And if nations were not working according to certain standards, that they would be sanctioned. But all these have been going on in our country. Our illegitimate president has been assuming the seat representing Uganda in the African Union. And, even making statements on our behalf. I saw in today's letter how he has been talking on behalf of Ugandan patriots and his views on African government, which we have never discussed as a country, but which he goes and his views must be the Ugandan views. So this is a problem of really not checking these governments until there is an explosion. We have been warning here in Uganda that all these explosions are possible. And when I talk about political tsunamis, you've heard Museveni ridiculing me. Where is it? I'm always just talking about things. And the reason he is now fidgeting and writing about the Libyan situation, saying that Ivory Coast, they should not hurry to recognize Ouattara. The reason he is fidgeting is because it is coming close to his door. He can see that all these things are approaching him. So there is, I think, the fundamental problem of not getting countries themselves to account. Of course, they fail to account to their citizens first. They fail to account to bodies to which they claim to be, affiliated and members of, which have also established standards. And they continue to act, to develop, dictatorships in their countries. And the result, as I have already said, without doubt, the result of repression is that people will sooner or later stand up and say enough is enough, and resist and throw out all the dictators, and so what is happening in Africa today is not new to Africa, is not new in the world. It has been going on. You saw what happened in Tananarive.
Yes, in Madagascar.
In Madagascar.
Yeah.
These situations have been there. There is nothing new at all.
Let's look at Libya once again. Do you agree with the bombings by the Allied forces? Is that a justified action by the West?
Well, the position which was taken by the United Nations Security Council was a situation of stopping the. You see, when you are in a certain situation, you have already, and the reason I was emphasizing the need for timely action is that once you are already in a difficult situation, you are between the rock and the hard place.
The choices are difficult.
The choices are difficult, either way.
Yes.
Because on the one hand, there was indeed real danger to people, civilians who are caught in this conflict. On the other hand, stopping that danger also imposes new dangers.
Right.
But I think in the balance, the determination that there should be no flying zone was a reasonable one. It does not solve the conflict at all, and therefore there must be another mechanism for dealing with the conflict that is there. It will not solve the conflict, and so I think it should not be one that should be focused on as a solution. It does not provide a solution. A temporary relief, yes, but no solution.
So where's the solution?